Harvey, good to see you tonight. This is an explosive report. You've just put it up. Tell us what the very latest is.
Well, when we broke the story that last Friday he was rushed to the hospital in Moline, Illinois, his people told us that he was rushed there because he had the flu, and frankly, it did not make sense to us, and I'll tell you why. He had just performed, as you said, performed in Atlanta, and did a very good concert. His voice was great. He seemed great. Jumped on a plane an hour and a half later, 48 minutes from his final destination in Minnesota. The plane is diverted, makes an emergency landing in Moline, and he is rushed to the hospital by ambulance. Now, when his people said he had the flu, it really stopped us in our tracks, because what we thought was, why wouldn't he tough it out for 48 minutes and be at his home? But they said it was the flu. He was there for 3 hours and he left. What we are told by multiple sources is that they made the emergency landing because of radio calls indicating that he may have had a drug overdose, and that it was so serious that they gave him treatment at the airport on the tarmac, then took him to the hospital in the emergency room. They gave him the save shot that you referred to, and then the doctors recommended, we're told, that he stay for 24 hours. His people then said he needs a private room. The doctors informed them that there was no private room at that hospital, and they said, we are out of here then. And the doctors advised against it, said it's a bad idea, but they still took him, brought him back to the airport, got him on a plane, and took him home. So that is the story we're getting from multiple people, that it was not the flu, but he was treated for what they said was a drug overdose.
And when you look at the circumstances of today's reports in terms of his death, they said he had the flu still and that he died in an elevator. So what are you hearing about the circumstances of his death today?
Well, look, I mean, you hear a lot, and we haven't posted most of it because we're trying to confirm various things. But I will tell you the curious thing, Megan, is that, if he had the flu, usually people who have the flu are kind of, down low, and then they gradually get better. With Prince, he was bouncing back and forth because, remember, in Atlanta, he was great. An hour and a half later, he's having a life-threatening problem. The next day, he's great again because he went to Paisley Park, held a dance party, and then walked up to the crowd and addressed them. And everybody who was there said he looked great, he sounded great, and that's not consistent with somebody who has the flu. On top of that, during all of this, he had at least 4 visits to his local Walgreens pharmacy, and that's not particularly unusual, except he had somebody else go inside. He was in the car, and we have a picture of him last night in the parking lot. We're told he was sweating and pacing, waiting for the person to come back out. And it's just all a weird kind of story about a guy who one minute seems fine and the next minute is in dire trouble.
So last night he was seen at the Walgreens with
7:30.
And so Prince goes himself and is there pacing around the parking lot? Is that what you're saying?
He is in the parking lot. Somebody with him is inside the store, inside Walgreens. Again, the 4th trip. But the people we talked to, and we have the picture up, they said he was agitated, he was pacing, he was sweating, and, hours later, he was dead.
Does he, so many of these musicians and celebrities have a history of drug use that, becomes public for one reason or another. Is that the case with Prince?
We are told that he has had problems, and the question is, how recently did he have those problems? And that, again, is something that I'm not really ready to talk about. I mean, obviously, this is something we're working on, and, the dots are increasingly connecting, but we are told, officially at least, that they are going to do a toxicology on him, and the toxicology will take 2 weeks. So we won't know definitively until the toxicology comes out. Hopefully, we will know something then. But, again, I think the Moline trip at least puts a little bit of context, to what's going on here.
Harvey, what kind of life was he leading?
A very private, almost secretive life, Megan. And what I'm told is that he actually closed his circle some in the last year or so. And a couple of interesting things did happen. He has been talking about writing his memoirs for a while now, for several years. And somebody very close to him, one of the few people who remain close, told us that a month ago he told his people, I'm going to write these memoirs, and I feel like I need to do it now. And in the last month, he wrote 50 pages. So something inspired him, to write these 50 pages. I don't know, look, I mean, there are some people who think it's premonition, some people who just think he finally got off the dime to do it, but whatever it was, he got suddenly inspired over the last month. That aside, a very private guy who not only doesn't like his picture taken in public, but really kind of closed himself off to most people.
Who did he surround himself with? Any family?
Well, he had a girlfriend who was with him a lot. He had a manager. He had some close associates who were with him, but not a lot of people. I mean, he was not this kind of social guy who interacted with a lot of people. I talked to a journalist today who, what am I saying? It's your network. I was trying to be diplomatic here. It was Greta. That Greta said that some time ago, she got a call from out of the blue, and it was Prince, and he was just grousing about, I think it was some record label, or he wanted to know his legal rights on something, and Greta said he was on the phone for well over an hour, and he didn't want to go on the air, he just wanted to talk to her. So it was kind of this ephemeral life that he led that, is not kind of the ordinary life, but Prince was not an ordinary guy.
And so now what's your understanding about where this investigation stands? Because there's going to be an investigation into this death.
There already is, Megan. The authorities there are investigating. We know that they are trying to contact the hospital in Moline, trying to get the medical records because they think it will help them. But they're doing this autopsy. They are going to do a toxicology. It's going to tell them a lot, and they're interviewing people, but they are treating this as a full-on investigation.
Minnesota state authorities.
Yes.
Do you know who found the body?
I do not know who found the body. We just got a transcript of the 911 call, and honestly, I was working on this other story, Megan, and one of my producers was doing the transcript. But my understanding of it, from what I was overhearing as they were putting it up, is that the person who called 911 didn't even know the city they were in. So it doesn't sound like it's somebody who lived around there or was, with him a lot in that town.
I've never spoken about this before, but I was born epileptic. And I used to have seizures when I was young. And my mother and father didn't know what to do or how to handle it, but they did the best they could with what little they had. And my mother told me one day, I walked into her and said, Mom, I'm not going to be sick anymore. And she said, why? And I said, because an angel told me so. Now, I don't remember saying it. That's just what she told me. And from that point on, I've been having to deal with a lot of things, getting teased a lot in school. And, early in my career, I tried to compensate for that by being as flashy as I could and as noisy as I could. And, I just looked forward to this time in my life when I could reflect back on it and talk to people like yourself, Dr. Cornel West. I mean, when you all come over to the house and we sit and we just talk about heavy things, I just become thankful. I don't